especially in the social media digital age that we live in now, is that not everyone's going to like what you put out.
Speaking hypothetically, you have to survive trying times. How will you keep yourself motivated?
I think by looking at what my weaknesses are and trying to work on those weaknesses when I've got spare time. One thing and one big advice I would give is buy and buy good quality gear.
Hi and welcome to episode number 4 of Compton Goes Pro. My name is Dan, I'm the editor-in-chief of ISO 1200 Education. The last time we talked about how to make a living as a pro photographer. In today's episode, we will talk about business operations. Compton just went full-time a couple of weeks ago. But before taking the leap of faith, Compton was working for getting his photography career off the ground for several years. Since photography is now his daily life, let's talk about today how he manages the business side of it. As always, we will have a Q&A segment at the end of the episode. Feel free to submit your questions in the chat box. Now let's jump in right away.
Hello.
Hello, Compton. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm fine. Back on track after
Yeah.
a little downtime. Back on track. All good. Thank you.
Yeah. Me and technology.
Exactly. No. I mean before that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned in the introduction, so you are just several weeks into full time. Again, congratulations on that. Right.
Thank you very much.
Um, how does it feel to be being now a full time photographer? What's your first impression?
So far it's literally been, I think it's like 2.5 weeks, and a little bit strange, a little bit weird, but enjoying this the extra time being at home, being able to catch up with my editing, etc. So yeah, it's at the moment it's hard to gauge, but so far in terms of the extra time that I have, it's been really really helpful and valuable. So I can see that side of the benefits already.
Okay, that's cool because I was just really surprised hearing you talking about extra time.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess this will change at some point, but
Yeah, yeah.
I know where you're getting at or where you're coming from, right? Because you had actually really like a day job or a night job, and then that's kind of a bit more leeway now, right?
Yes, that's correct. So whereas it before I was, for instance, in the evening I would be working from 6 till 12:30 in the evening, so till 12 a.m. in the morning. Sorry, and yeah, so now I have that 6 till 12 to basically be a bit more productive with my photography and also help around the house with my little boy, etc. So yeah, when I mean extra time, that's the kind of message I'm trying to get across.
Right. Aren't you afraid that this kind of extra time quite will dry up, within the next few months because you actually could use this extra time for your photography business?
It could do, but like we've mentioned in our previous podcast, having that extra time is valuable in terms of getting that mental rest and recoup and come again. So I'm gonna be using it for that purpose mainly, and try not to do as many hours in terms of in the evening. So I will try and get as much of my work done. Yes, it's not always, like you said, it's not always going to be that way. But my aim is to try and get all my work that I need to get done as early as possible so I can then use that extra time to actually relax and let the brain sort of come back down to earth and go again the following day.
So because I know extra time is always a dangerous thing, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I wish you all the extra time you might have in the future.
Thank you so much.
Sure. So let's begin our talk about a few aspects related to your current business operations since you're now really full time into it, some crucial decisions you had to take before going full time, and some future plans. So, okay, if we follow like a stereotypical photography business roadmap, there's a stage one which is called like starting out, and there's a stage two like conducting photography as a side hustle, sorry. Both of them you're already, these are phases that were in the past.
Yes.
So on your individual business roadmap, what's next for you? Do you have any step three now, since you're within like being full-time?
Yeah, it's the focus on the client base that I've already developed, and obviously working to develop even more. And in terms of marketing, creating marketing materials, so that will be from tutorials, BTS. There's so much things that I want to do, and also one-on-one mentoring, which is something that I've already started as well. So that is probably the big the big part of the whole roadmap, because when we first started our studio, Be Cool Studio, our motto was all about inspiring the next generation. So I want to be able to help the next generation of photographers coming up within the industry to give them a better idea of how studio photography work in particular. So my main focus would be, when it comes to my mentoring side, would be mainly based around the studio side. In terms of YouTube as well, I want to be able to have a little bit more of a bigger presence on YouTube and share my story, share my journey, as well as share whatever um what I know, sorry, what I know, so or what I've learned so far from photography, because I'm a self-taught photographer, and everything I have learned as I've learned through the medium of YouTube. So sort of like giving back in a way. So that is probably the two main things I'm going to be doing, is doing BTS and YouTube videos for not only myself, but also we'll be doing some content for the ISO education website as well. So make sure you guys look out for that. And then focusing on the mentoring side of my photography career.
Absolutely, and that's really fantastic. And thank you for the hint and mentioning it. And that's something we will talk about anyway. But that's kind of that's based on the foundation that your um, portrait business or your people photography business is just working like smoothly, right? So because that's where the income will be, while
Yes.
you will be able to giving back to the community or to the future upcoming photographers, which is rather, well, cash out, not really especially earning money right away. So that's kind of the balance, right?
Yeah, I
So
am. I
you
am earning some. Sorry to interrupt. I
no,
am earning some money from the mentoring side of things, which is good,
right,
and obviously
right.
positive. So I am earning some money on that. I'm not just doing it just for free. I am earning some money. So for full transparency, yes, I am earning money from that. But in terms of the YouTube stuff, yes, that's going to be a little bit more of a grind. And obviously, it all depends on how quickly those videos that I create on YouTube starts to get the traction that you know, I want. So yeah, that side of things is going to be a little bit more effort for less rewards, to say the least.
Sure, absolutely. But that's an investment, right? So that's an investment
Yes,
in the future, assuming that the practical or the day-to-day photography business is working smoothly, like you already, I mean, you're in the middle of it. It's working, right? So it's turning,
yes,
the wheel is turning. Okay.
yes,
Okay. That's cool. Okay. So the next step is going, besides now the real world education, obviously, which are workshops and yeah, which are the workshops in place. So you're pursuing digital education as an additional field of income,
yes.
right? Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do and that you can do, and it's endless, it's infinite, right? So,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
good.
So that's my
Good.
main focus anyway. That was always the plan, was to establish myself within the industry first, and once I'm established, then use uh that notoriety to then start building a different side of the business. Because with photography, it's it's not one dimensional. There's always other aspects of it where you can either improve or add to it. So my job now is to look at those aspects of how I can use what I've learned and what I've gained over the past 8 years to my best ability to then pass that on to the next generation.
Right. But it is a different aspect or it is an additional aspect? I'm just asking. I know that's kind of, that's it's in the details, but you continue to work as in your lifestyle people photography, right?
Yes,
That's your
that's
bread
the
and
bread.
butter.
Yeah, that's that exactly. You took the word out of my mouth there. That is my bread and butter. That will always be my bread and butter. And I use that as well as a narrative to then drive customers towards the other things because once clients are aware that you do videos, you do podcasts, you do, all these different things, it's also an opportunity to probably network with them and maybe bring them in on, on some of those things. So yeah, portrait and fashions work will always be my bread and butter.
Of course. Um, because the other pursuits are content marketing or networking, which are quite obviously very important. But I'm just asking this because, I know of a few photographers, especially in the space of YouTube, right? They are then just doing YouTube videos because they have to entertain their audience, growing their audience, but they're not really working anymore as as real photographers. I mean, having a real business, and then it
Yeah,
starts kind of, for me at least, it starts to be out of balance. That's why I was asking that you're still like you're on in
yeah,
the flow of your business, right? Okay.
yes, yes, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was just a quick detour. Because I
it's
really,
okay.
I really, I really find it important to follow photographers that are actually working within their fields. Because as you know, you said before, sorry, you're within this field for 8 years now, and now you're taking the next step. And I love to follow photographers that are still working in a practical way because, as we know, things evolve, styles change,
Yeah,
technique evolves. It's not really about gear, but I mean, we learn more and more. Um, and as long we are still in the practical photography, we actually evolve, right? So I,
yeah,
I find I find client contact really important. So that's why I was asking.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah. So yeah,
sure.
hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely,
So,
it does. Okay, so before you started out, or probably within the last 8 years, did you had you have to form any legal entity? Talking about law for your photography business, and do you have a separate business accounting, or how do you handle this from an
yeah.
organizational
So
point of view?
from a photographer point of view here in the UK, there are a couple of things that you can do, and there's a couple of things that I'm currently doing at the moment as well to help me with the next stage. But to begin with, one of those things is quite important that if you are thinking about going full time at some point, is to get your business registered. Register your whether it be your name or your photography business name. Get that registered with the government here in the UK. So once you've got that registered, you want to get yourself a bank account, a special bank account, business bank account that's specifically for your photography business. And the gradual next step would be to potentially, and this is not something you have to do straight away, but it's quite important. And it's something that I wish I'd done slightly earlier is to get yourself an accountant. If you are going to take this serious, get yourself an accountant because there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to miss out on. You're going to learn that you probably should have been doing. There's different aspects of it, and that's something I've had to learn over the past, I would say, year and a half because I used to do everything by myself, obviously, and I found it a little bit time consuming. And when it comes to paperwork, I would prefer to be out shooting rather than sit on a computer doing paperwork. But having an accountant can help you ease that process a little bit because they'll be able to tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it, and which would be the easiest way for them when it comes to doing your accounting at the end of the year. It's also important to have in terms of when I first started out, to have a good social media presence, so creating a social media account on all platforms where possible, and make sure you are sticking to your business principles. One of the things I did was I transition most of my social media accounts, even my personal social media account, more into marketing material for my photography business. Whereas in I rarely post stuff that is sort of private. Or I would occasionally post stuff that were private, but I keep it strictly business related. So everything that I post is either sharing towards an end goal where it leads to clients, or at least let the clients out there, potential clients out there, know what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what type of photography I'm doing, etc. So those are one of the important things, some of the important things that I would say when you're first starting out. So first thing is to get your business registered. So there's a couple of options when it comes to being registered. You could either register as a sole trader, which is what I am currently because I'm on my own, a sole trader, or you can be registered as a limited companies. All of these comes with different caveats. So it's important that you make sure you go onto the government website, .gov.uk, and read up on everything. Make sure you get all your facts right before you actually register for this. If you want, you can either get your accountant first, to maybe have a chat with your accountant first before doing your registered process, which they will be able to guide you a little bit more in terms of getting that right from the get-go. So that's quite important. So those were the key things I think that were sort of important at the beginning when you start out your business, is to get you registered, get an accountant. You can potentially also have an account online software which helps you deal with your invoicing, etc. Those are all things that I have done from the get-go. And also, like I said, getting a really good social media presence. So streamlining your social media accounts to strictly just your business related, where keep your private life private, keep your business life in a different realm. So yeah, those are some of the things. And then there's some things I'm gonna be doing now going forward to help me with the other side of the business.
Okay, these are really helpful tips. Because if I'm thinking about just logically from the order what you just explained, and obviously every country is different, every government, every taxation is a little bit different, but the process is
Yeah,
always, at least in the
the
Western
same.
world, I would say, is the same, right? So
Yeah,
I would probably go for the accountant first. Like I would pursue it. It's like having a makeup artist in the team. So I will
yeah,
probably first having having the accountant for getting as much valid
information.
information or yeah, proposals as possible, because yeah, sole trader, or as the opposite of it, an LLC, so yeah, a limited company.
Yeah,
um that's really a good hint. And then the software for invoicing, obviously, right? There are so many different platforms, but even that probably might your accountant help you with, at least leading you in kind of a direction. I don't think this is really super um super dependent on the business. I'm not sure. I know there are software suites for photographers, especially for portrait photographers, especially, but I'm not sure if this is really just very, uh, it's coming down to this niche. But yeah, might
yeah.
help, because yeah, bookkeeping is not it's nothing we,
It's not.
I guess,
Mm-mm.
nobody likes, right?
No one
In a
likes
way.
it. I know for a fact. I am not gonna sit here and pretend like I do. I know for a fact I do not like it. I would
Right.
rather 100% be out shooting.
Right. But somehow somebody needs to do it.
Yes, and
And then
and it's very important.
no, it is very important. Otherwise, you're accounted, and then yeah, your government won't be super happy about that.
Yeah.
um, I was just, I know you explained the business principle then in relation to the marketing, or to the social channels. I'm sorry. Um, it's that, so business principle for you means you're sticking to your style and genre, right? That, just that I get it right.
Yeah. So, in terms, when I say business principle, I mean in terms of what you share on your social media channel. If
Right.
you are planning to run a business on social media, make sure you are channeling all your energy towards that business and producing content that would bring more of that particular business to you. So when I say producing content in that way and sharing content in that way as well, because what you share will ultimately decide whether a client wants to work with you or not. And if you're sharing content that's informative, that looks fun, entertaining, but also great quality work as well, there's more chances of you getting referrals, getting new clients, and and other client and other previous client pushing your work as well. So that's the side of, in terms of the social side of the business principle. It's like, make sure you're sticking to what your plan is, if whether it's portrait, fashion, or you do a little bit of both, which is what I do. I occasionally do weddings as well. So if you're doing weddings, and this is something that people always ask me, your social media channels are all about fashion and portraits, but you claim that you do weddings. I do have a separate page, a separate account, a separate link to where I send my clients. So I also keep those things separate, because my primary focus is portrait and fashion. But I do occasionally do the weddings, which are bespoke, so small to very medium-sized weddings. So yeah, so I keep those two separate, but I have a place where those content live, and I can literally, if a client says, would I would like to see some of your work, some previous work, some examples, I can literally just click on a link and send it straight to them.
So you're kind of dividing a little bit the approach of pardon, of your marketing, right? So that's the
Yes.
one side of business principle. So it's about style and service.
Yeah.
But if I hear the term business principle, there's something in the back of my mind, that's the code of conduct, or how you want to conduct your business, right?
Yes.
Any any principles there, just as a little excurse?
Be professional at all time. Be
Okay.
professional at all time. You will, I think, for me, when it comes to like business, what you will find as well, especially in the social media digital age that we live in now, is that not everyone's going to like what you put out. So you have to make sure you are conscious of that. And when those comments, those negative comments come in, be prepared, be ready, and be calm. So that's something you will learn. Everyone has to go through a phase where they've learned that process, and that's one of the things I had to learn as well. Because at the beginning, I took it very personal. Sometimes, when I always say, one of the main reasons why I share the work is because if a client pays me to do a job for them, I've done the best job I can possible. The client's happy. I then share that image. If someone on social media isn't happy with that image, then I don't care, because at the end of the day, the client that I have produced that work for, he's happy, I'm happy, and that's it. Yes, social media. This is why I say social media is, you can use it as a weapon, or it can be a weapon against you sometimes.
Absolutely. So social media, I guess let's talk about Instagram, right? In this matter, your portfolio or our portfolios, normally our stream is on Instagram. Okay.
Yes.
Um, so this is actually for showcasing your work. First
Yes.
of all, happy clients. Otherwise, you wouldn't probably publish it. So happy clients, which is a reference for future potential prospects, and the rest does not really matter, right? Because the people that are giving you negative feedback, that won't, most likely 90%, that won't be your clients anyway. They are just people commenting on something. They are whatever, don't have a
100%.
right.
100% agree.
Okay. So for you, it's kind of a, I know it's not social media, but it sounds this way. It's a one-way street in a way, right? So you're pushing your content there. So let's talk about the photography. We're not talking about education or YouTube, right? So Instagram as a one-way street for presenting your work, about happy, or things you have done for happy clients. So that's kind of a one-way thing from your side, right?
Yeah, like, and I think that's quite key and quite important because who are you doing it for? If you're not doing the photography as a quote unquote full time job, and yes, you do it on the side and you get extra money, etc. Uh, the work you put out there, most likely your clients have to be happy with it. If your clients are not happy with it, then there's no reason for you to put it out because 9 times out of 10, your clients are not going to recommend you for any more work or any of their friends or or any of their colleagues.
So, uh, getting back to the comments, that's a really very individual thing. So it, as you said, it doesn't matter what others actually think about a one final photo because it just
N-
doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. Once the client that I produce that work for is happy, then yes. I have a strategy, and I think we may go into this later on, but just a quick little heads up. So I have a strategy where we might have spoken about this as well in the past, off camera, where I only edit photos when it comes to my portrait and fashion work that the client selects. That is a strategy I've used for over 4 years now, and it's a strategy that I have seen to ultimately work and help and develop my business and grow my business, because there's more chances of that those clients being happy with that process than you picking the photos as a photographer, saying that I like this, I like that, but in the long run, you were being paid by the client to take those photos. So ultimately, they're in charge. So once you finish the photo shoot and you've then hand over those photos for them to select their selected photos, then it's up to them whether they like a shot, they like 1,000 shots, 5 photos, 10 photos. But what I tend to do is give them a number that they can actually pick, and then once they've done that process, it then comes back to me, and those are the images I edit. So, for instance, if I did a photo shoot and I took 300 photos, but I told the client that they could only pick, say, 25 images from that 300 photos. Once the client has done that, I'm only editing that 25 photos. The other 275, yes, they stay on my computer, they stay on my hard drive, but I do not go back and touch those images, simply because if I go and touch those images, I can edit probably 5 or 6 images that I potentially like, but the client didn't pick those. They don't like those, and they might not like those, and the chances of them actually sharing and posting that those images is very slim. So it's a fine margin, and I know photographers like to have control. We love to have control when it comes to the creative process, but when it comes to the editing and the final delivery, that is the process I use, and it's absolutely worked for me. And 90 to 95% of my clients that I tell that this is the process, they're like, other photographers don't really do that. And yeah, so sometimes you got to make sure also the clients see the final product before you actually post it as well. So that's something I've been guilty of doing in the past, where I finish, even though the client has gone through the process of picking the images. Once I finish editing the photos, I then, bam, because I was so excited, I then post the images on social media, only to then find out that the client would prefer to see those images first. So that's something that I can hold my hands up and said, yes, I have done that in the past. I'm guilty of it, and I have to apologize and say sorry. And now it's a process of seeing client sees the final product, then they end up on social media.
Right. In the beginning, it might happen in the heat of the action, right? Because sometimes
Yes.
we are just excited about things. But then the more experience we have, and then the code of conduct, and then being professional, and then having this streamlined work approach, like you already have, it won't happen again because yeah, it's probably not super nice. But this is
Yeah.
a really really great insight and advice regarding let the client pick from an already cold selection and then
Yeah,
finishing up that. And it obviously might happen that other people won't like it once it's finished and on an Instagram channel on your channel, because it might be. I just want to add some more aspect of it or dimension. It can be that probably the hand posing is not great or just something, but the client loves it, right? We're talking
yeah,
about final results that the client loves, which are paying your or our
bills.
all bills exactly.
Yeah,
Um, and then sometimes there might be a discrepancy between how you would educate somebody, in your educational channels or BTS or whatever, and what the client loves. And um, I really think you're absolutely right. And this is really a great insight. Having the client pick what they like, because this is your client base and you will get references and probably follow up jobs on this. And on the other side, you might get some kind of harsh comments or some kind of questionable comments like this should be like this or like that or whatever, right? But it doesn't matter as long you're not um, selling it or propagating it as that's how you would teach stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Interesting. That was a good detour. Thank you so much. That was really good. No, that's really people, photographers, please think about. Ask your clients what they like, because I'm guilty of this too. I'm calling the photos and then I'm already going too narrow in the selection. And then I should sometimes really think about like probably some variations. We should first show the client before
Mm,
actually deciding on our own and going
yeah.
into post. Yep.
I
Yeah.
highly recommend it to everyone out there. Try
Yeah.
it, even if you don't try it for all your. Try it for your next 5 shoots and see the
Sure.
response you receive.
Sure. Cool. Thank you. So, switch gears. Do you have any plan or any trajectory for sustainable growth? We already talked about that you want to go in digital education and also obviously in real world education in the studio. Anything additional in your service portfolio you want to add?
I would love to learn video. I would love to get into video, but again, that is something that I dabble in a little, but I know will take up a lot of my time and effort. So maybe getting into video so I can add that sort of aspect to my portfolio as well. In terms of look at where social media is for Instagram and TikTok, etc. So having that strong visual presence might be beneficial for my business in the long run. So maybe going into video, that would be something that I will definitely be uh, dipping into a little bit more and maybe getting a little bit more serious about.
In regards of content marketing and market your brand, or also in a kind of a service offering like like moving portraits or whatever is now trendy. We talked about
Uh,
trends, but you
both
know
a little bit of both. So some for marketing purpose as well as clients. So many clients now request videos on most shoots. So and luckily I have a strong network of videographers that I know within the Manchester area where I live. So I can always direct them to those people and I take care of the photography side of things.
okay, but just if I may ask, what are clients actually asking for video? So they want to have a testimonial or recording a testimonial, or what's the demand today?
It's just for social marketing purposes. Reels, that's the one that's absolutely blowing up at the moment. Which is obviously important. You will see it everywhere you go. Every time you open Instagram, you will see it, and also for TikTok because the marketing opportunities on these short format video is large, is big because these videos get views by the thousands, some even by the millions. So the marketing opportunity there is it's important to be in tune with it as well, so you know what's going on. Trend. When I think we spoke about trend. That is definitely a trend at the moment. being able to market yourself using Reels and TikToks. So yeah, that's why clients are a little bit more open to doing more videos, and this is why they want more videos, because they've seen those marketing opportunities.
Okay, so it's kind of a personal branding thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. No. Yeah, makes completely sense. Because we're doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for our behind the scenes, we're doing it for our shoots.
Mm.
So why shouldn't client not demand or ask for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good hint. Good hint. So, speaking hypothetically, you won't have any work and you're just tired of doing education. So, you're going to, you have to survive trying times. How will you keep yourself motivated?
I think by looking at what my weaknesses are and trying to work on those weaknesses when I've got spare time, so that I'm always on top of everything that's going on, and I'm aware of my strengths and weaknesses and things I can improve on and things I can get better on. So with the way the world is, things can change rapidly, and being able to adapt as those changes take place, it's important. So you will always find me on YouTube, on educational platforms, looking at different techniques that I can potentially use to bring a different element to my portrait work, my fashion work. So I think for me would be to keep learning, because with photography you never know enough. There's always something that you can add to your arsenal. There's always a little bit of extra that you can do to improve and get to the next level. And even when you get there, if you stop learning, then you basically get complacent. So you always have to be open minded.
So, that would mean you're classifying, or at least partly classifying, weaknesses for not evolving enough.
Yes, you have to evolve. It's definitely a weakness if you don't. You cannot blame the industry for your,
Right.
because the industry would always change. If we've gone from film cameras to digital cameras, and now it just keeps getting better and better. So the industry will always change. You've just got to learn how to adapt to those changes as and when they happen.
This getting better and better regarding gear. We will just talk in a minute about gear. Isn't it as annoying that it just gets too good? It's just too
Every
sharp. It's just too many pixel. It's just too freaking whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It's the like literally, it's you will fall in love with something today. By Monday morning, there's a new one on the market. So yeah,
Yeah, but we sometimes shouldn't be bothered, right?
no.
At least, yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about that shortly, but I'll
Exactly.
explain exactly what I
Next
mean by
question. Oh, okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's endless. Okay, so yeah, that's the keyword. Let's talk gear for a brief moment. Related to studio portrait work, right? So we wanna pack this a little bit so people understand what we're talking about related to gear. How do I choose, or how does one choose his or her first gear, and what is absolutely necessary for starting out? So camera, lens, and lighting. So let's talk studio portrait work or studio fashion work.
One thing and one big advice I would give is buy buy good quality gear. Save the money you would use to buy the cheap gear, and buy quality. And when I say quality, I think it's important to note that there are quality gear there that are not super expensive. And a name that obviously springs to mind straight away is Godox. Godox branded gear are very, very, very good. And also my friends over at Pixel Pro, which you can also see at the back of me, where I've used one of their softbox. They're basically, Pixel Pro is basically Godox branded, Pixel Pro branded with Godox style products. So the same quality of product that you get from Godox, you will get from Pixel Pro. So first thing would be to buy good quality gear that would last you a long time. I am guilty of buying cheap gear, thinking that yes, this is all I can afford. Yes, this is all I need for now. But sometimes buying cheap also limits you, and puts a little bit of limitation on there. So in terms of lighting, if you were to start off with studio portrait, uh, there are a couple of choices there when it comes to lighting, and I would say go with a Godox or a Pixar. They're called a Godox Peak Godox 8200s or Godox or Pixar Pro, sorry, Pixar Pro Pika 200s. There are pro models available as well. And the good thing about this particular light, it's versatile, so you don't have to just use it in the studio. It comes without wall plugs, so you don't have to plug it in. It's battery operated, so you can buy a couple of spare batteries to go with it as well. And they're so versatile that you can literally just come on location anywhere, any position, put them on, and you're ready to go. In terms of modifier, uh, if I'd known earlier, I probably would have invested in it slightly earlier. But for instance, this particular modifier behind me here, it's known as a easy open softbox, meaning that it easily folds down and packs away into a carrier bag, and it goes with you. Same thing with the Godox 8200. So together, these two modifiers is what I use for my portraits on location, as well as sometimes in the studio. And one of the most underrated underrated things in the industry, and it's one of the cheapest on the market, is a 5-in-1 reflector. And I wish I had it here with me. I've got one somewhere. Yeah, so 5-in-1 reflector is basically a reflector. They come in different sizes and also different shapes, and they basically have a white, a silver, a black, a gold, and a diffusion material. Hence the name 5-in-1. These reflectors are so versatile and so valuable. They can be used for many things. They can be used for bouncing light, reflecting light, even subtracting light from your portraits, as well as diffusing light as well. So those are my three things I would recommend in terms of getting started. But if you are going to do it a little bit longer than maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, I would invest in maybe in something that is much more reliable in terms of a wall outlet, something that plugs in, so you can actually use mains power. But if you want a little bit of both, a mixture of a good quality light to use in studio as well as on location, then I would highly recommend the Godox AD200 system or the Pika 200 system.
Now, I need to make one note here. We are not sponsored by Godox,
No.
and we are not sponsored by Pixar Pro or any brand that is based on the platform of Godox. And there's a second note before I want to say something about that. Is I just got a comment like 3 days ago. We are running this ISO 1200 behind the scenes group on Facebook, right? So we have like, I don't know, 650,000 followers there. And
Yeah.
we are posting like 30 to 40 quality posts a day from all venue photographers, so hobbyists up to professionals. And then, really, like 3 days ago, there was one comment like, this group feels, so paraphrasing, this group feels like a Godox advertising platform. Because that's actually really the thing. Like 85% from, let's say, from starters to enthusiasts to even professionals are kind of using Godox because it's the sweet spot, in my opinion, and it's really my opinion, but it's a sweet spot between quality, pricing, and a super versatile platform.
Yes, 100%. That's why. That is why. Like
That's why.
it's
That's
yeah.
why. That's why. Yeah, and it's nothing against Elincrom and Profoto, etc., etc. But it seems to be the sweet spot for growing your lighting equipment. Plus, it has the advantage it's on a Bowens platform, so you really get a lot of modifiers for quite a good price. And I am as guilty as you. I haven't invested in the beginning in this easy open. And since we are sometimes on location, right, with the modifiers, so it's really helpful having easy open modifiers to being quickly and fastly in the beginning of setting up the things. So yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic brand and platform. And
Yeah,
again,
100%.
we are not sponsored by Godox. It's just a lot of people are using it. And I'm
Yeah.
the same guilty in the very beginning, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, I bought some really cheap, I don't know, China knockoffs of
Mm,
something.
yeah.
And the
We've
third
been
time I
there.
was
We've all been
shooting,
there.
they went off in fume and they started almost to burn. Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you see something for $99 or 99 pounds, please forget about it, right?
Yeah. Get quality. Buy quality.
Quality. Yeah,
Invest in quality. It's an investment. And
it is.
if you are a working photographer, if it's an investment, you will make that money back. You
No,
will
absolutely.
you will make that money back because the quality of work you're going to produce from having that equipment will get you that money back. So yeah, it's an investment.
Absolutely. I'm using 8202 from Godox. Mostly in studio, if in studio as a kicker or hair or something like this, because they're really not heavy to put somewhere up, right? And then instead of having something for the outlet in the studio, so electricity outlet, I do use the 8600. They have a larger battery
Yeah.
and they last days. It's unbelievable. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you get back the money from your investment because they're not that expensive. So
Yes.
now we talked a lot about light and that light modifiers. What's about camera and pixel? We don't have to talk about the brands themselves because it doesn't matter if you shoot, and in my opinion, if you shoot Sony, Canon, what is it,
No.
Nikon
We
or
don't want to
Pentax
start a
or
war.
exactly. We really don't want to start a war.
Yeah, we don't want to start a war. So for
And
me,
exactly,
okay.
pixel count, right? Or sensor
Yeah.
count,
Yeah. So for
please.
me in the beginning, and this is gonna sound really strange, but yeah, I shot at the beginning. I use a different brand to what I use now, and I because at the time I could only afford the crop sensor version of those cameras, and those cameras were still 24 megapixel. So my clients technically didn't know the difference whether it's crop frame or full frame. So they didn't see that difference because clients, that people that you shoot work for, don't pixel peep. It's only other photographers that do. So the clients usually didn't know. So for probably a good 5 years, I was shooting with crop frame sensors, and in that time I had shot over 40 weddings, I think, and use crop frame sensors, which were all 24 megapixel at the time. So yeah, pixel is that's not important. The main thing for me, what I found was the most important, was what you put in front of it, the glass you put in front of it. And when we talk about investing and investing in good, you will hear a lot of photographers talk about investing in good quality glass, invest in good quality lenses. So the lenses you put in front of your cameras are sometimes more expensive than the actual cameras, but there's a reason for that, because the quality of the optics in these lenses can help you produce absolutely stunning images even with a crop frame sensor camera.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. If somebody wants to start out with a crop sensor because of the budget, right? Um, and sometimes some camera brands they have lineups of lenses that actually really just fit the
Crop
crop
frames, yeah.
lenses. Um, so, but would you recommend to actually buy a because of the budget, so a lower entry crop sensor body, but already buy a strategically buy a full frame good glass lens so you can adapt it later to
Yes.
actually a full frame body? So like,
Yeah.
like this kind of balance.
Yeah, 100%, 100% agree. Like there are some full frame lenses that will work and are very not necessarily cheap, but within the mid range, which are
Mm,
good as well. But if you want the top of the top and the best, you have to go and spend that extra buck. And it's important that if you want that for the quality of work that you're going to be producing, yeah, you'll need that. Of course, having a full frame camera would be beneficial in some aspects as well. But 9 times out of 10, when a client that I've done a shoot for, usually they only use it for either social media marketing or potential maybe printing out on leaflets. But if the client wanted to blow something up bigger, like maybe a billboard or something, that is when I would either rent a full frame camera or a camera with a higher megapixel.
right. That's a good advice, because I was just thinking while you were talking, I was just thinking about some kind of strategy, right? Um, my recommendation is really not to wait for nothing. So if somebody wants to start shooting portraits, and if one just might afford an entry level camera with a kit lens, please go for it, right?
Yes.
Because once you're ready and better, and get by your great work a good job, you actually can rent something just for that day or for this project. So that
Yeah,
would be
before you
the
even purchase it, you can rent it. Like if you were thinking about buying a particular lens to take your photography to the next level, you can go out to rental houses and just rent one for the day and try it out. See whether you're competent with it, you're okay with it, you like the optics of it, you like the images that it's producing, and yeah, and then go down that route. But don't be to, oh yeah, I need to go buy this lens because I've seen another photographer use it, or I've seen what is done for this photographer. Please make sure you do your research. So whenever I buy a potential lens or a camera, I will always do my research first. Then I'll go to the shops if I can, if you can, or if you've got local camera shops, and have a play with those gears, get a feel for it. I remember when I bought my first camera, actually bought my first camera, it's the way it felt in my hands, it just felt right. So when I switched systems to the one I've got now, it was it was slightly different, and it took some time to get adjusted to it. So yeah, like go in, feel, have a play with the gear, and then see, does it fit right? Does it feel right? And does it look right? And then, do I have the budget for it? So please do not go and put yourself in a bankrupt situation just because you want to go buy a new lens because you see another photographer use it and you see the sort of images that they produce. They might be sponsored, they might have a wealth of client, they might have a large savings account or something to help them buy those glass. So, or they might have even rented it themselves, so you never know. So don't be fooled because you see someone else using something that looks and is expensive. There might
right.
be reasons behind it.
Right. And I guess the most important recommendation is, if you feel the urge, you want to start your photographic career, just do it with what's available and what you can afford, and then take it step by step, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And which leads to the next question. So, in your experience, how will or could gear investment evolve over time? So, we talked about lenses, right? Which is kind of, from the camera equipment gear, kind of the most important part of it. So, this might be a strategy to invest over time in better lenses. Um, Anything else that could evolve over time in your experience now over the last, well, 8 to 10 years?
Yeah, like obviously the camera bodies, the megapixels, that would be your obvious choice. But please, again, please be mindful that the cameras you've got currently, they are doing their job. They are good. Yes, there are certain things that a new camera might bring to the table, but please remember that the camera you've got it's quite capable of producing quality and great content. So don't just be fooled into investing in expensive cameras, and then you down the line you don't get that investment back for whatever reason, or you don't feel comfortable with that particular gear, etc. But yeah, the camera, obviously we spoke about it before. I think understanding that gear as well, getting to know your camera, will be beneficial to you. So understanding what your limitations are with your particular camera, so that you can then um, navigate those limitations if they ever come up, and then you can work out solutions uh, to fix those problems. So understanding your gear is probably the next important thing. So get to know your camera.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Especially the newer ones, let's say for the last 6 years. There's so many unbelievable gimmicks or functions. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like Photoshop. It's endless, and I have no
It-
idea.
yeah, it's constantly evolving.
It is. I love eye autofocus and then face detection stuff like that. This really helps in our job, right?
Yes.
Um, but there are like 99 other things. No idea about them. uh, I just want to say one thing about the pixel count or sensor. So I'm still working like with a 10-year-old 45 megapixel sensor, I guess. And I bought this back then, and it wasn't the newest model or iteration. I really bought it because of 45 megapixel, because for my studio, when I opened it, I knew I want to go to print larger print. So my studio was about printing out stuff, not billboards, but like
Yeah.
A3, like nice framed passport to
Wall prints.
wall prints, right? So, and obviously today isn't probably anymore such a big thing, but still a lot of cameras have 24 to 36 megapixels, which is fine. What is your experience? Because I especially bought this body, which wasn't the new iteration, so it was quite cheap. I bought this because I knew I have like whatever 8,000 by 6,000 whatever pixels without having to blowing it up
Crop.
for wall
Yeah.
pictures, right? What's your experience? Do we need that, or isn't it a problem to blow up prints from a smaller pixel count sensor?
It's funny you say that. I think I saw a video a while back. I think it's probably about 2 years ago, where the guys from F Stoppers did a test with a billboard, and they looked at a billboard from a distance. They looked at it, looks really good, looks really sharp. When they brought the camera closer, when I say close as I am now to this microphone, when they brought the camera closer to that billboard, you could not even tell what was on that billboard. So when it comes to megapixel, I think it's only if you are a pixel peeper that you will kind of notice the difference. And obviously, like you said, printing. If you are going to be printing your images large, yes, it's important to get a little bit more megapixel. It gives you a little bit more leeway when it comes to printing, because sometimes when you print, you could send your stuff, especially to printers, it can sometimes shrink in terms of the quality. So you can maybe send a 40 megapixel image to print, and it might come back with roughly about 36 megapixel, you know, size image. But when it comes to pixel peeping, it's only photographers that do it. Like nine times out of ten, the clients that you think, they're not gonna be looking at photos like that. Like that is not what they do. You're always looking at an image from a distance, and it's usually probably about at least 5 to 6 foot away. And even then, it's more about what the actual image is telling you, what the mood and the vibe of the photo.
Of course. So what we want to give a recommendation, right? So I guess in our both experience, starting with 24 up to 36 or something like that for starting out, cropped or full frame, that's the perfect starting point.
Yeah, it's okay. There is a few. I think there are a few micro four thirds cameras that are like 20 megapixels, which are still good as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so anywhere between 20 to 36 will be perfect for starting out. You don't need, unless you're planning to blow your images up really, really big, then there's no point in uh, you know going
Right.
down the expensive, really expensive, crazy route.
Yeah, plus it's not only the sensor, it's bigger files, it's bigger storage, it's bigger backup, it's down the road everything, right? So yeah.
Yeah, everything back to OG. Let's not talk about backup. I've actually purchased 16 terabyte worth of storage.
Congratulations.
It's non-stop.
It's nonstop, yeah. And yeah, the files are bigger. The Photoshop, you need more RAM. Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Oh,
right. It's
yeah.
endless, right? So, but still, last gear economics. And I was kind of surprised in the Instagram live video of yours, truly.
Mhm.
I have discovered a large amount of various camera bodies. In some behind the scenes, there were like 3 to 4 camera bodies lying somewhere on the table. So, and since gear seems not to be so important, why do you have like 3 to 4 different bodies available?
Right. Let me paint a picture for you.
Yes, please.
I showed up to a job and my camera malfunctions, and I do not have a quote unquote second slash backup camera. That job is for a very important client. The chances of me actually finishing that job is very thin because my camera isn't working, and also that I'm potentially ruining the client's event, the client's shoot, etc. So the main reasons behind the backups that I currently own is two things. When I shoot weddings, I like to shoot with two bodies, which I can then attach two different focal lengths in terms of my lenses onto those bodies. And that gives me the versatility of going from a 24 to 20. Say I have a 28 to 75 lens and maybe a 85, or I can go a 16 to 35, or even a 70 to 200. So it gives me that versatility. So having those two bodies, it also acts as a backup. So if one camera fails, I still have one camera to go. And in terms of the third body, for weddings in particular, I got a third body for the weddings because I want to back up one of my backups. So that's the main reason why I have three cameras that I use whenever I do weddings. When I do portraits and fashion shoots, I only take the two with me just in case. The other camera pretty much stays in the bag all the time. So those are the reason why I've got three main shooting body. I've got one extra camera which I use for my BTS, as you mentioned. That's it.
Okay. Um, and what I have seen is at least probably two are different. So you don't have like four or like let's say three identical bodies, right? It's more like
No.
probably iteration or newer one or an
Yeah.
older one, etc., etc. It's like
Yeah.
economics, right?
Yeah. So I basically currently, and I'll put it out there. So I have got 1 to 3 of the Sony A7s. So I've got a first iteration, I've got a second, and I've got a third.
Right, which makes completely sense because that's the evolving of the investment, right? So you
Yeah.
start with one body and then you probably buy at some point a few years later an iteration of it
Yeah.
and using the backup, etc., right?
And one reason why I bought it as well, like I said, is like because my workload was getting bigger, my client base was getting bigger, and I couldn't run the risk of showing up, especially to a wedding or a photo shoot where my cameras were not functioning or not working, and I don't have a backup to actually complete that job. So that's one of the reasons why I started investing in extra bodies.
Absolutely. And it's the same platform, so the same glass, absolutely just step by step new iterations. No,
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, thank you so much. Let's switch to the few Q&A or to the Q&A segment. So the few questions we have here. The first one is again about gear. Okay, cool.
Always
So
good.
from always, so it's from Advik from Bangalore in India.
Oh
What?
wow,
Yeah, yeah, we are
we're
starting to be
international.
quite global. We're really international. That's cool. I'm really happy about that. What gear equipment or what gear slash equipment, sorry, is needed to be considered a professional, meaning that clients take me seriously? We touched this point before,
Yeah.
briefly. So, again, what's your opinion? I mean, let's say related to portrait and fashion photography, right? I guess that's the point here.
Honestly, no, it's not the gear. It's the quality of work that you produce with the gear you have. And again, it comes down to knowing your gear and being able to produce great work with that gear. The clients usually, the only way a client will start to think about your gear a little bit more is if you're doing more commercial jobs for like bigger corporations, like put out there like a Nike or maybe a Adidas or or something like that. That's when gear might be an issue. But for the most smaller client base, like your family portraits, your fashion work, it usually isn't. And I have not found any issues with that myself. So I would say the main thing would be is to work on understanding the gear. Take some of the points we made in the previous question as buying and investing in good quality glass. That would be, if anything, my recommendation: invest in the quality of the glass that you put in front of the cameras you have. Um, being scared of clients noticing, they're not going to ask you what camera you shoot with when they're booking you for a job. They're not going to come and say, oh, hi Compton, what camera do you shoot with? How big is the megapixel on that camera? All they want to know is that what is your pricing, and what quality of work and what style of work are you going to produce for me. That's it. And unless you're shooting for a big corporation like Nike, usually gear is not that important.
Yeah, the commercial jobs is a completely different level and world and
Yeah.
industry. But so you never were asked why you're shooting Sony and what
No,
lens or glass you use because people most likely don't care, like you
no,
said,
they
right?
don't. Honestly,
Yep.
don't. They don't.
Yep. Yep. Okay. That answers that. The second and the last question for today from John in Tucson, Arizona, USA. That's business related. How do you, no, do you network or attend specific business meetings or trade fairs still? And if yes, how, where, and why? So are you still
I,
networking or do you
I
network?
do. Yeah, I do network. But in terms of trade fair, I've never actually been to one. I am planning on going this year. Where there is a really big one that happens here in the UK, which I will definitely be attending this year. But in terms of networking, yes, I'm always networking. If I'm out with friends, if I'm out with families, I'm always networking. And how I do that is partly because branding. How I brand my car is branded with my name. My Some of my clothing is branded with my name. So whenever I go out to certain events, I would either take my car and wear something that has my name on it, or maybe even start a conversation with somebody that I know that could potentially get me some clients. So I'll have conversation with moms. For instance, I have conversation with the moms on the school run. That's what I network there too. And they be, oh, so you do photography? Yeah, yeah, I do photography. Oh, my son is having a birthday party in a couple of weeks. Is it something that you do? Yeah, yeah, 100%. And once I go to those parties, I then network again with people who are there, and they will come up and ask, "Oh, do you just do event photography? Do you just do parties?" Like, no, I actually do portraits. I actually do fashion. Here is some of my fashion work. I can show them my fashion work. So my networking never stops. I'm always. always thinking, where can I get the next client from? How can I introduce the next person to my work, to the work that I produce? How can I get that person to book me for a job? And it could be anywhere. In the middle of a supermarket, sometimes I'll be talking photography with a random stranger.
Okay, so that's really this connection and this people business, like we talked about in
Yeah.
a few different episodes already. But are you attending actually this kind of business networking events, or this is more like an organic networking you're doing situative, really based on the situation you find yourself in?
Just organic, depending on
Okay.
the situation. I haven't actually been to a business networking event in a long
You know,
time.
this chamber of commerce or whatever, there are always this kind of
No, I
organizations.
Yeah, I think we had one of Society of Photographers here. They usually have meetups and stuff. Like I haven't been to those, but like I said, I'm definitely going to the trade fair this year, because there's a few people I would like to meet in person that I have met via social media, via YouTube, etc. So yeah, definitely be looking at going to more trade shows. Just for the purpose of networking and seeing those people, and getting to know those people on a much more personal level.
Right, but as an attendee, right? So really
Yes, yeah,
for
not as
getting in
yeah,
and
as
talk.
an
Yeah,
maybe one day as a
sure.
thingy, but for now, just as an attendee.
Okay, cool. Okay, that would conclude our talk for today. So thank you so much. Let me bring
Thank you
in
for
the
having us.
banner for the next one and let me make my concluding words. Yes. To you, dear viewers, please remember to visit iso.live/Compton to submit your questions for the next show. I hope you gained some insights, inspirations, and had a good time, like always. And thank you so much for watching and listening. And see you all next time. And again, Compton, thank you so much for all of your insights. It was once again a pleasure and really interesting.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having us. And I look forward to seeing you guys again.
See you soon, guys. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Take care. Bye bye.